What up, everybody? Let me go ahead and put this one out live. I'll tell you the truth of why I do this live sometimes, because sometimes there are certain grammatical things, such as the not parentheses, but sometimes it's like, sometimes parentheses and whatnot will not show up if I download the video. And it's just, like I say, it's just me being lazy. So I'd rather just do it live. Because I don't want to put in those extra little, commas or, quotes or anything else like that. So it's just laziness, but just letting you know. How's it going, Temujin? The holidays. Some expectations versus reality. So this is a little bit more what bitch dislike. I have no idea. I don't care. That's fine. Let them dislike. That's all right. I ain't hating. I ain't drinking haterade. Go ahead and dislike it. I ain't gonna make no thing about it. It's all good. What's going on, American Dissident? It's going all right. It's going all right. And it's all right. Thank you, Chakras. Sorry. I'm just going to do this live. We'll see how long it takes. But I think it's important. This is a little bit non-political video here. But I think it can hook into politics. But I'm going to talk about this from an American context, just to let y'all know up front. So, the holidays are a rough time of year. It's fun when you're young, because you don't know about the ins and outs of things. And, it gets stressful as you get older. I think it does, yeah. So I'll take it. Like I say, I'll take the dub regardless. When you're young, it's fun. The holidays, it's like, put up the Christmas tree, maybe you get like, the popcorn and put, some fishing wire through it. That's an American thing. Maybe you cut down the tree, you get a Yule log, But I think that, that there's an expectation as you get older of what things should be. And I think a lot of the time, the expectation becomes so high versus the reality of things, let me close the door right quick. Y'all just give me just a moment. Okay, so I'll explain without trying to do some good OPSEC, but I'll try to tell this story. So, apple pie. My mother and I have made apple pie for several years. And like I said, going back to when I was younger. And I think it just, since I'm working and she's off now and she's retired, it's a different sort of thing, right? So I'm paying, extra money for, I guess you could say, rent and, utilities. And so it's a different dynamic that exists. Dynamics change between people. And I think that's important to realize. So I said, and she asked me, would you like to make a cake or make a pie this year? I said, yeah, we can get shortening and get Granny Smith apples. So what occurred? She changed her mind. We went to a ice cream place, I'll put it that way, that sells groceries on the side. And if you live in Texas, you know what I'm talking about. Johannes Brahm. There you go. Johannes Brahms. There you go. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But wink, wink. For those that are in Texas, y'all know what I'm talking about. And she saw a pre-made pie. And she said, I want to get this instead. All right. Okay. So we had to go back to Walmart, which I hate going to Walmart. I hate going there. It wasn't busy. She is correct. It was very busy in the parking lot, but it wasn't as busy. The aisles were not as packed as they are normally, regardless of holidays. But I was just a little bit sleepy, and I just felt, she would stop at other things, as women do. You have to realize that women do that. They, they're like moths to a flame. they're going to pick out stuff and they're going to look at stuff. And they have their own list in their head versus what they tell you. And you have to be able to understand that. So what happened? Well, she bought the pie. I gave in and said, okay. It's a pre-made apple pie. And she said, what about this apple pie with cranberry? I said, no. Just get the apple pie. Because we don't know what that cranberry will taste like. And we got cranberry sauce as it is, So why the hell am I telling this anecdotal story? Because it's an example of the holidays and how these expectations change over time, right? When you get older, you want things as simple as possible. You don't want a whole lot of bullshit, right? So it's like, okay, let's just go ahead and do it this way. So we don't have arguments, so we don't have this and that. It's like, okay. So I returned the shortening and the Granny Smith apples. And, we kept the pre-made pie. So we can just heat that up in the oven. Boom. Another thing. Tree. We used to go get a tree every year. It was this tree lot. When the drought occurred in our local community, it was hard to get local trees. So we went to Lowe's to get a tree. We got tired of that, so we got a little stand-up tree, and we'd have to move the couch and all this other stuff to get the big tree in there. You get the tree skirt and all this sort of stuff. You got to vacuum up the pine needles and all that other shit, right? So now we just have a little tree, that's, just plastic basically. And we put that up and we put the presents around it. We change expectations because things happen, Now that I'm a maintenance guy, coming out, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night or whatever, you have to be prepared and you change your expectations. The reality changes. We all have those images of, various holidays, right? I'm sure that, like the Chinese, for example, they have Chinese New Year. And there's an image of what occurs there. Or, like I say, if you're, Muslim, I'm sure that people celebrate, different families celebrate Eid a certain way. Those things change, though, depending on, whole different sort of criteria, right? And I think it's important to realize this. I'm getting real big brained, aren't I? Using some big terms. I sound more like a a self-help guru than anything else, but I feel like it's important. The holidays, they, and I felt when I was in Walmart, as you do, I just felt like, and I'll just say it out loud. I said, fuck Thanksgiving and fuck Christmas. Now, I don't mean that necessarily, but the commercialization of it and the fact where we've been so manipulated to think these things. Now, of course, that's more of a maybe somewhat anti-capitalist sort of sense, but it's also just a sense of, I don't want to deal with this bullshit. That's really the translation of, why do I have to walk around this big-ass store with these slow-ass people? And it's like, there's this one guy. All I wanted to get was some whipped cream for the pie. And these two old guys, turned out they worked at the local college. And they're sitting there trying to figure out which sort of eggnog they want to get. You've got like 4 or 5 people around them. And they're just sitting there waiting for them. And you're just like, you motherfuckers. Of course, it depends on the environment. Absolutely. This is true, yeah. And you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? Why do you care about what sort of, but that's the image that they had or whatever, right? And it's like, it's got to be those type of apples or it's got to be this sort of thing. That's how people are, right? It's like for Jewish people, they have Jewish Christmas, right? Where they go up to the Chinese restaurant on Christmas. That's the whole thing, right? Now, of course, like I say, that's what, it's unironically called Jewish Christmas, but a lot of people, now of varying faiths believe that sort of thing. So now they don't want to deal with their family arguing or whatever the case may be. So what do? They go to the restaurant too. They go to the Chinese restaurant. Maybe they enjoy a game or something like that. There's always a football game. There's always some sort of, the other football, European football going on. And so they go there to watch it. Or maybe even the bar. They're just like, man, I'd rather go to the bar than deal with my family. Some people do that, right? So the expectations change, and this is where, you have to kind of question where traditionalism is. It's kind of like the idea that Rakim said, where it's like, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. Where it's like, yeah, you can have traditions. Nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, though, traditions are based on, I'm going to get somewhat lefty here, but they're based on material conditions. So there was a time when, you didn't have that much. So you shared bread. You made sure to talk to your neighbor, this and that. Now, of course, people are going to say, oh, it wasn't like that with the Pilgrims. Oh, we would have never given them shit, but that's a whole different argument. But yeah, my disdain for eggnog would make me even angrier in that situation. Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with you. But, I remember, and right after that, those two guys cleared out, there's this old woman, smelled like cigarettes, older, and she spent a couple minutes, grabbing something. All I wanted to get was whipped cream. So I just waited, grabbed the whipped cream, and just kind of sped walk my way around trying to find my mom again. I'm just like, okay, I don't want to fuck with this bullshit, and that's just the way it goes, right? It's the same thing if you have to work, woe betide those retail workers that are still out there. I remember I worked at JCPenney for 2 years, and woe betide that, the Black Friday. Oh, the infamous Black Friday. I mean, Americans, goddamn. It's always funny to see. There's always going to be some new toy or some new shit, and people are going to go up there and try to get their little deal. Oh, my goodness, And there's always, there's going to be the news. Hey, we're here at the local Target to watch Black Friday sales. It's just like, you can get it online for cheaper. You can go on eBay and probably get it for cheaper. But people still buy into it because they make it an event. They make it sound cool. That's part of advertising. That's part of marketing, right? To make it sound cool and make it sound neat so it gives a false impression of community. That's the whole thing of, oh, hey, how's it going, Rachel? I haven't seen you, or whatever the case may be, right? I want to make sure this is all in an American context. You can go ahead and make it for Eid, I think, if I'm not mistaken, for, yeah. But American way, yeah, some random conservative. Exactly. But that's, like I say, that's the way it goes. I'm sure that it's that same way in France. I'm sure it's that same way in Germany. Whatever the case may be, right? A lot of people treat traditions like they're an heirloom that they take out a few times a year and they don't live in it. Yeah, that's true. That is true too. It's more ceremonial than something that's living. I remember seeing this guy from Finland, I think, where it's like, seeing wild guys, have techno music bumping and whatnot, running through the countryside and whatnot. That's traditional, In France, we're Americanizing everything. Oh, that's sad. That's sad. Americanizing is sad. It's just cringe. As an American, I can say for myself that it's draining. It's so draining because we all want that. They have this image of like the Norman Rockwell painting for Christmas, or they're watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or watching it used to be the 24-hour marathon of The Christmas Story, right? You'll shoot your eye out, kid, or oh fudge, when he sticks the soap in his mouth, or when Scott Farkus gets beat up, right? I mean, America, like I said, Americans know. Any American knows about all the aspects of that movie. They know exactly what parts. Like, oh, they're getting to the part where it's like watching NCIS or Law and Order. It's like they know what part it is. Like, oh, I know which one this is. Oh, okay, and it's that comfort. But that's the image. The same thing with like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or the Grinch or whatever, right? There's this tradition. This is like even for Halloween. It's like, you turn on a movie and that's the only time you watch that movie. It's like I only watch a movie. It's like I only watch this movie on New Year's Eve or something like that, or I watch the Die Hard movies or whatever, right? But that's considered tradition, you know. It's funny because during the 60s, Santa Claus in France was seen as satanic. Same for Coca-Cola in Roman Catholic communities. Yeah, that's too bad. It's too bad. Like I say, I'm sure, and speaking on that too, I'm sure that Catholicism is not the same in different countries, right? It's like to think that Catholicism is the same in France versus what it is in Spain. No, those are two different things. Two different evolutions, if you will, right? There was plenty of destruction of, Catholicism during the Spanish Revolution, right? So it's a different sort of thing, you know. But like I said, that's getting into the political, and yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of intersection, but it's a whole different thing, right? The holidays and expectations are two different things. There used to be, like I say, the Cabbage Patch doll, or am I going to get the new Super Nintendo, with Mario or whatever, right? Nowadays, of course, you have Steam, and you can go on Steam or you can go on GOG if you're a boomer like me, and you can get a game. And so every day is like Christmas, It's the same thing with Amazon. They make every day like Christmas, yeah. I'm a Greco-Catholic, so I can't really comment on Roman Catholicism. If I were Polish, I maybe could, but I'm not Polish. Yeah, that's true. Like I say, it's a different thing. Irish Catholicism, they all adapted to their own communities, and that's, so it's a whole different type of thing. It's the same thing with, I imagine, Greek Orthodox or with, versus Roman or Russian Orthodox, two different things. Or American Orthodox. These are all different matters. But yeah. I used to watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town when I was younger for Christmas. Same with the Grinch animation. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, they tried to do that live version of the Grinch with Jim Carrey. That's never going to be a thing. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about Jim Carrey. I used to somewhat admire him, but now I just think he's a scumbag. So who cares? But that's my take. It's not uncommon to find Santa Muerte influenced Catholics around my area. It's satanic in my opinion. Oh yeah. But yeah, I think it's important to realize, like I say, holidays and beliefs and how they can change over time, you know. Tradition does not stand still. Life doesn't just stand still. Things happen. And, they change over time, right? So yeah, I mean, there was probably a time in New York where, going to Macy's was seen as a great thing, but nowadays it's probably, you know, unrealistic to go to Macy's and spend a day, or go to Rockefeller Center or whatever. That's the image of Americans, right? We see New York and LA as these beacons of Americanism. Yeah, that's the image anyway. That New York City is seen as that way. More specifically, Manhattan. It's a sort of beacon of American capitalism, right? Same with Los Angeles to a different degree. Like if you can make it in Hollywood, yeah. And with New York, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? I don't really know about that. It's a matter of opinion, but that's the image of America. Now, of course, most people hate New York and hate LA because they meet these people and they're superficial and they are degenerate in the sense that they're going to go out to the gay bar or whatever the case may be, whatever. Yeah, New Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. New York and L.A. definitely represent that. But I think both New York and L.A. can also be. They also are. There's two aspects of it where there's the docks and the shipping, which is very important, obviously. But that's a different thing than Manhattan and like the various districts in Wall Street, this and that. These are two different types of things, right? It's like living in La Cienega versus or going traveling down La Cienega versus going to the docks. Two different things, But yeah, the Eastern Catholics or do Eastern Catholics follow the Vatican or know what the relationship? What is? Yeah, okay, the relationship. Yeah, but it's important to realize, these differences. I've been talking for a little bit, so I'm just gonna take a breath for a minute. And we see these various changes, and these holidays, of course, have been co-opted and they've been changed and they adapt, right? There's some generations, I'm sure, that when it comes around to Christmas time, instead of listening to Burl Ives, they're going to put on Run DMC, right? So they're going to put on Christmas in Hollis, referring to Hollis, Queens, the neighborhood that they grew up in. It was December 24th, and all that sort of thing, right? It's expectation, but it changes, when you can fry your turkey instead of spending hours or whatever the case may be. It's the same thing that all those History Channel specials that they still have that at least give the appearance. Those old specials that they have, with the Smuckers guy, right, talking about how pecan pie is made or how pecan pie, however way you pronounce it, wherever you're from. Same thing with pumpkin pie or with cranberries or, like I say, various things that are local things, right? Same thing with like Louisiana. I imagine some people have like I say specifically Louisiana they'll have maybe they'll have gator. Who knows, right? I don't know. Yeah, great grandparents started going to Roman Catholic Church once they immigrated. I don't know if they had to do another confirmation. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, we do follow the Vatican. I would think that we should follow our own parishes independent from Rome, but that's what happened when West Ukraine was controlled by the Polish Regency. Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah, and I know. Nah, yeah, I'm too American. I was gonna say you know, the Lithuanian, yeah, Commonwealth or whatever, Polish Commonwealth, but that's a whole other. Oh boy, that's some deep European. That's some deep lore that I'm not going to touch. But yeah, that definitely feeds into that. Now of course America. You have like Protestant churches. You still have Catholics to a different degree. In the South, it's Baptists. Whole different, like I said, that's a whole different matter. Getting into Baptists, I don't even know that much about Baptists, but it's a whole different thing. You know, I think about this. I mean, if we're gonna, I see the chat's talking a lot about Catholicism, so I'll talk about it here. For example, the local diocese, and I say local, but it's really down in Fort Worth. The local diocese decided not to renew the high school that was in town, so they tore it down, completely torn down. And I think a lot of folks are angry about that. And they'll have local Catholic things and whatnot, but the diocese decided, no, we're not going to pay for that old building anymore. They tore it down all the way. But that is a diocese choice, isn't it? So there is no longer a Catholic oriented college, or excuse me, a Catholic oriented high school in the city that I live in, completely torn down. Now, right next to it, there is a Catholic church. And it's ironic in a certain way. At least I'm not sure how it is in different cities, but there's a Catholic church, and just right down the road, basically, you have the Orthodox church, the local, and then you have the Greek Orthodox church right next to that. I used to go to the Orthodox church briefly. Um, uh, it didn't feel right, I guess. There was a lot of singing. There was a lot of, I just kind of felt, I wasn't sure. I remember the priest was like, "Why don't you stay?" And they were very nice. They were very kind. But I was just like, I don't know. And of course, I got political on the first day. Like, what do you think of Putin? Very spurgy, very autistic. So I apologize for that. It was, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just too much of a spurg. I'm sorry. But, uh, so I kind of felt like I outstayed my welcome. They're very polite. They're very nice. But I just, oh, it's probably been a couple of years so I went to any sort of service. I'm sure that, like I say, I know within Christianity, there's a lot of, complaints that, they'll say that, Catholics are pagan, or they'll say that, Catholics are satanic. You know, I don't like getting into that. It's very messy. It's the same thing like the Sunni Shia split. I'm like, oh, I don't want to touch that. And it's very messy. It's a very messy thing, especially, with the whole, but a lot of that comes down to influence as well. Like, yeah, I live in an area where, yeah, this is mostly a Baptist sort of community. Yeah, Pentecostals exist and all this sort of thing. I don't know all the distinctions, I'll be honest with you, but I'm sure they exist. And I remember one time where we had to, before the Catholic school was taken down, I made the sign of the cross. And my guy's like, he was making fun of me, like, what are you, a dirty Catholic or something like that? That sort of thing, right? But there's a lot of that sort of thing. Yeah. Don't bring your politics to church. It's a time for Christ, not earthly politics. That's true. That is true. And you should not do that. And this was afterwards and everything. Oh, it was very cringe. So I kind of felt like I outstayed my welcome. I'm a little bit better about that now. But yeah, I think that it's a very different sort of thing. And I think the left in general, the right is also bad at it for different reasons, but the left is very bad at understanding religion. They would rather just be atheistic about it, like, well, you know, we just don't like religion. We just, we don't hate the people. We just hate the religion. It's like, what is religion made up of? Religion is made up of people. It's that simple. It really is that simple. Where it's like, well, we just don't like religion. It's like, well, there's some people who were saved by religion, like they've gotten off of drugs because of it. It's the same thing where people will say, oh, Nation of Islam is anti-Semitic and evil. Yeah, but some people have been saved because of the Nation of Islam. That got them off drugs and they helped them get a job or whatever the case may be. It's the way it goes. But yeah, I just pray at home. I should start going to Friday prayers, but the biggest Islamic community center is Saudi oriented. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. It's a very dangerous thing where it's like, it's a very delicate thing where you have to understand people's motivations, and it's you know, where, yeah, I will occasionally say my prayers and say, you know, you know, now and lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And, if you'll see a dead animal, this and that, I'll make the sign of the cross. I'm not officially Catholic. I have not been confirmed, but that's how I feel about it. There's a pull towards religion, and of course there are people who say, "Oh, that's dumb," or "It's a psyop to control people." It's like, but you're controlled by something as well. You're controlled by science. You're controlled by whatever. It's just different motivations, and of course, we just see atheists as evil, this and that. But I think that they view, they lost their religion for whatever reason, you know. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah. I saw that this one guy who said typical stuff like evil satanic church, But he also said that Biden is a puppet of Trump and that Trump is the Antichrist. Yeah, like I said, that gets very much into like, that's one of the distinctions of why people like Common Filth. For those that know, I mean, here we go, Common Filth. We did it. We mentioned it, but yeah, Common Filth was very much like a Baptist sort of guy. And he changed his tune. He was very much like, talked about, homo fascism, for example, like the gay, the actual homosexuality within fascist movements, and, gay folks getting married, and they were, of course, Nazis and shit like that. But he shifted his tone. I remember in some of the more later videos, like I think from this year or last year, where he was somewhat praising Hitler because, of course, things had changed. The sands of time had shifted, right? And I think that, a lot of his community, like I say, he praised, for example, like African countries for being more Christian than the United States, at least in his view, right? Like I say, feel as you want to about Common Filth. I think that he was overall a net good, and there were a lot of things that he came out with, like white girls fuck dogs, right? And it's true. White girls do fuck dogs, and white girls, for whatever reason, they do that. So it came out, and that sort of influenced culture, and that became a meme. And of course, you had Rusty Cage, who had that song, "White girls fuck dogs," yeah, "White girls fuck dogs and are all alone," and all that. You know the song, but yeah, and it gets into that sort of thing. But y'all know, and it's something that does exist, and people have proven. It's like, yeah, there's some dog DNA that you find in women, and you'd be like, oh, white women, but, white women extinction button and all that sort of thing. So it's out there, and people know, and white dudes kind of find out. It's like, what's that white girl doing? Why is she letting that dog kiss her on the lips? You're like, what else has she gotten that dog to do? But that's a whole different thing. But yeah, this one guy I'm talking about left this comment underneath on an RT video, of all things, literal Spurgy video, schizo. Oh yeah, there are plenty of folks like that. Sometimes you engage in them, sometimes you just avoid it. Yeah. Hello, yes. Oh boy. Oh. But yeah, I mean that's the way it goes, and that kind of describes the internet, right? Where it's like, but there's a tradition as well. You think about this guy. Shout out to Mittens on Twitter. I'll go ahead and say that. Shout out to Mittens on Twitter. This is something as well with tradition. If we're gonna go into that frame, Mittens on Twitter. Let me see here. What's his handle on Twitter? I'm trying to think. Oh, Cade Mittenhouse. There we go. Yeah. Of course, 4 doors, more whores type of thing. That's the meme, of course, going around. But shout out to him. Every Friday, of course, he comes out with that video with Ben Shapiro doing that Imagine Dragons song, do 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 do, and his Mike's Lemonade and whatnot. But that's considered a tradition, right? Or there's that guy who posted about Pogs, right? Or whatever the case may be. But that's Twitter shit, though. That's kind of the local thing, or the N-word towers, or whatever the case may be, right? Those are traditions there. Online, there's traditions as well, where it's like, you talk about that sort of thing, and they'll be like, oh, I remember, dude, press F for that dude, or whatever, right? And there's those folks that, that people crowd around. You think of like, that the German dude, Xi Jinping, on Twitter, or or the Spurs like logo Daedalus, that everyone just dabs on, or K-Bot Ultra, and people have their stories about them, and they have their beefs. So but there's various holidays, but it's all online shit, Who's laying pipe? So what? Nah, that's not her. Every fucking day. Hold on. Right? So I mean, it's just the way it goes. I've gone so far off the mark that I don't even care anymore. But yeah, the holidays are what they are, and it gets to be, it can be a stressful time for people because there are expectations and there's this sort of sense of you got to have fun, right? Or if there's snowfall or whatever the case may be. And like I say, people get so broken, and people like me, you go through various things, and you just kind of you become a nihilist about it. You're just kind of like, I don't really care about them. Sorry about that. My mic when got unplugged for a moment. Sorry about that, folks. We're dealing with boomer tech right here. Sorry about that. But I'm not on Twitter, but I know Twitter MLs made some comments about me XD. Oh, I'm sure there are. Twitter MLs, they're cringe, but yeah. They are talk about, a dying species. Twitter MLs are just, I'll say this about Vosh. I'll say this. I'm giving more praise to Vosh, not to say that I like it, but he really pushed the anti-tanky sort of line very hard, and I think a lot of folks have adapted because of it. Look at Danky Kang, for example. Danky Kang made that, people have dabbed on him for it, rightfully so. But he made that post saying he's like, we don't allow anti-vaxxers or reactionaries and all this sort of stuff. And we respect trans rights and shit like that because it's on, but that's online shit. Nobody knows about transgenders in real life. It's like you'll meet them in real life. Don't get me wrong. And there's somebody that I work with right now that is FTM, a female to male transition. Um, but most people above the age of, I would say, 35 to 40, for the most part, there are outliers. They don't know what the fuck transgenderism is. They don't know what female to male transition is. They don't know about HRT. They don't know. They don't know. But online folks, extremely online folks, they know about that. They know about the 40% meme and all this sort of thing. It's a whole different thing. And people have to balance that in their heads about what to talk about and what not to talk about, right? you know, but yeah, it's a whole different thing, right? And people have to balance out those things. you know, it's a whole different thing. You have to balance out, a lot of shit in your head, you know? But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, boomers ain't on our gang shit. Yeah, they should retire from politics, be honest. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they should. The rich boomers, of course, a lot of them have become never Trumpers where they imagine conservatism a certain way. And, people have different versions of conservatism, right? And people can be socially conservative, but also try to be somewhat progressive in some ways. They try to balance these things out. People see Gamergate as tradition, right? And of course, others will see Gamergate as evil because of ma evil Bannon because he influenced it and whatnot. Nobody gives a fuck outside of that, right? Normie niggas don't know about that. It's like normie niggas barely understand who the fuck Kyle Rittenhouse is. So, like I say, it's a whole different thing, man, but it is what it is. And, traditions change. The expectations change. Holidays change, right? People weren't celebrating May Day like that. May Day came from paganism, but it's like, May Day really isn't a thing in the United States. They try to, but it's not really a thing, you know? Nazgul Gang is like unironically the way forward. Capitalism and cosmopolitanism are destined to fail. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. I do believe that. Yeah. I won't specifically call myself that, but I'll still have those Nazgul sort of beliefs where you understand that there's a national identity or a local identity, but it's not necessarily racial. It's ethnic, but also respecting that the rest of the world does exist. And you have to balance those things out, right? You know, and there's also all sorts of things that just come naturally, right? That there's natural hierarchies that do exist. That's not necessarily a fascist thing. Lefties have hierarchies too. They just don't want to say it, but it's more understood. It's one of those understood things, in my opinion. It's like lefties go to certain folks as gurus, right? And they'll throw out certain folks and they'll still hold on to others, right? David Packman, for example. They'll be like, oh, well, he's socially progressive, but he's too much of a capitalist. So they kind of keep their distance from him, right? Or they'll say boomers like Dr. Wolf. They'll be like, yeah, we respect him, but he's too he's too much of a supporter of China for our liking. So I mean that's the way it goes, right? Everyone has their gurus and they have their folks that they listen to, right? You know, it's like the AF, the America Firsters. They're still holding out hope for Paul Gosselaar or for Toomey or um, who else? Like Youngkin. They're holding out hope for these folks that they're going to be the ones that change America. uh, and of course, people like Nick Fuentes are trying to desperately hold on to what sort of force they are and holding on to his Spurg army, of Groypers, and of course Groyper, that's a whole other thing of tradition where it's like Groypers didn't originally mean that. It was about cozy. It was about just vibing, bro, and making memes and stuff like that, and people like what's that boy? Kamikaze guy, that guy making his videos, the cozy stuff, just cozy posting, with like, doggos and stuff like that, right? It was just cozy shit. It wasn't about, all this sort of racial stuff and everything. People turned it into that and they co opted it and they tried to take it for themselves, but it was a whole different type of thing. It's like, Chuck and Sneed, right? And all that sort of thing. It came from online culture. But, that's how it goes. Like I say, holidays changed. Like, May Day was a different thing, or, you know, uh, Mexican Independence Day, or, whatever, it's like July 4th for here. Of course, July 4th, 1930 was also the date the Nation of Islam started. So Founders Day for that, right? So while some people are talking about July 4th in, the American context, the NOI context is this is when, you know, this political institution and also religious institution was started, right? So I mean, it's different things, right? So some people celebrate April Fools in a certain way, and others will celebrate in a different way, right? So yeah, I mean, where the fuck am I going with this? I don't know. I always do that, at certain points. I'm like, where the fuck am I going? But yeah, Bastille Day means nothing anymore. Exactly. And so new holidays will arise, right? When this country breaks apart, there's going to be new holidays that occur, right? So they'll say this is when we liberated our local community from the American tyrants, right? I mean, if you're smart, I would do that. That's a way to get loyalty in folks. And you can, like I say, some of that may be astroturf, some of it may be organic, and you can co opt some of that. But that's the way it goes, right? So when balkanization occurs, there's going to be, Freedom Day or whatever they call that, freedom from the American imperial yoke, where, California became its own country or whatever, right? So holidays come and go and traditions change, you know? So there's the celebration of July 4th. Nobody cares about it except boomers who just want to get fat and eat hot dogs and burgers and drink beer, right? Maybe it's a chance for somebody to get laid. I mean, who knows, right? It's the same thing with, New Year's Eve or whatever, right? It's an excuse to get drunk and get laid. That's the whole thing, right? That's a lot of what holidays are. It's a chance to, sneak up to that girl that you like or whatever and try to get some. Be like, hey girl, what's going on? You wanna head back you wanna head back to my place with me? Come on, let's do it. Right? That's what a lot of holidays are, Maybe it's National Smash Day, right? Smash or Pass Day. That's my new holiday, right? Let's make it Smash or Pass Day. Sometime in the summer maybe it's like Smash or Pass Day. That's a new holiday we're gonna make. you know? Victory over the GOP fascists is what California will call it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be Victory Day, you know, kind of like how it's celebrated in the Soviet Union, or Russia. That's a whole other thing. May 5th, or excuse me, May 7th, that's still a very big thing in Russia and still a big thing in, former Soviet satellite countries. A lot of veterans still come out. There's still a lot of respect for that. And that's organic. Where it's like, hey, my family died fighting the Nazis. So that's some real shit. It's a whole different thing in the US. Veterans Day is something that's more ceremonial. It's not really, it's something that you do because you've done it for years before. Whereas, those Slavic communities, they still have that respect and they still say, hey, my father or my grandfather gave his life so that we can be free from the yoke of fascism, right? That's the whole idea. Like I say, you agree or to disagree, but that's how it's seen, and there's that respect there. Where if that veteran's too old, I remember seeing a video of it where a veteran was too old to get out of bed, but they came up to his window and they sang for him. It was a very moving moment. I'm welting up a little bit just thinking about it, but that's the sort of respect there. You know, um, and it's organic. Some of that is co-opted, but I think for the most part that's organic. The U.S. just doesn't have anything organic. It's all been co-opted. It's all been astroturfed, for capitalism, right? Where we've got to make sure we get sales so we can get all this old shit out. So we're going to make sure we sell out all these slippers or whatever the case may be, right? So we can clear it. That's unfortunate. If the U.S. became, or certain aspects of the U.S. became more organic, and there was an organic holiday, a genuine organic holiday, wherever else, that's a way to make things better, in my opinion. To have something organic and not something that's um, been co-opted. I learned my granddad was in a bulbous group who liquidated a whole SS division in retaliation for destruction of a Ukrainian village in 1942. Oh wow! Hey, there you go. Like I say, it's a whole different. That's that sort of thing, right? Where they remember that it's very strong. It's why thinking about that with Ukraine, where you have LARPers who put on those SS uniforms or whatever and try to march around. Is that organic or is it co-opted? That's a matter of opinion, but it's very cringe regardless. I think even American Wignats will be smart enough to be like, no, that's cringe. And they'll support Russia in that way. It's like American support for Ukraine to me is entirely co-opted. It's not that they give a fuck about Ukraine or its history. They don't care. They don't care. It's just about a buffer area. And you could say the same thing about Poland as well. This whole Poland Belarus sort of stuff. It's artificial and it's something that's used as a political game to make Europe and make EU look and the EU look weak. Feel as you want to about it. Like I say, that's very delicate shit that yeah, the South will celebrate liberation from commie Democrats Day. Exactly. You know. And I'm sure there are people in the South still who celebrate, maybe in different communities where, this is where my great great grandfather died fighting against the Yankees. I'm sure there's celebrations there somewhere, and they'll probably play, "Oh, I'm a good old rebel, and that's just what I am. I hate this Yankee nation." No, no, do, do, do. That's a good song. I like to say that should be the real anthem. That could be the new. That could be a new anthem in the South, right? Oh, I'm a good old rebel, and that's just what I am. And you can adapt it, right? Where it's like, you know, the Antifa came coming, and we shot them down. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I hates the Yankee Nation. Do-do-do-do-do. That's it. Like I said, it's a beautiful song in my opinion. That's American context. As much as I could try to sing and understand Katyusha, that doesn't represent me. It represents a Russian context. But yeah, it's a different thing. Yushchenko had the best plan for Ukraine, make it a neutral country, but both the West and Russia don't want that. Yeah, that's true. It's a delicate thing. Like I say, I'm trying to evolve my talking points and trying to understand that, like I say, particularly between Russia and Ukraine, and not simply be a Russia boo and be like, oh, well, it belongs to Russia. It's more complicated than that. It is. Um, yeah. It's the same thing with Syria, where it's just like you can't simply be an Assad boo and be like, "Oh, Assad's great at everything." It's like, look, it is what it is. People support Assad not because they love him, but because he is seen as better than a Western-controlled sort of system or a Turkish puppet like that in Idlib, right? With I can't even think of the name of the fucking group now, but the LARP group, you know, um, it's a whole different type of thing, right? Or astroturf groups like, say, the YPG. Nobody gives a fuck about them. Nobody cares about the Kurds. Nobody cares about their culture. You use it as a talking point. You know, it's like they. I don't know. It's a delicate thing, and it's. I'm not going to put my American ignorance on that. It's a very delicate thing. But yeah, Poland is just the EU's buffer. Oh, absolutely, it is. There will be a simultaneous hatred of Poland, but also a love of Poland, where they'll hate Poland because they promote, hatred of Nazism and communism and its sort of somewhat Catholic leanings, but will respect it for whatever reason. Like I say, it's a dangerous thing because, of course, you can get into the whole thing with Zbigniew. I can't think of his name. What's his name? Zbigniew. I know if I start putting it in. Zbig Bielski? Zbigniew Bielski? No, no, no. That's the Bielski brothers, right? Zbigniew. There's somebody else. I can't think of it, but Bielski from Lodz. From Lodz. Died in 1998. There's somebody else. No. Zbigniew. The one that's the MSNBC. Brzezinski. There we go. Yeah, Brzezinski. And of course, that's the one that's on MSNBC. And so, yeah, Zbigniew Brzezinski. Very much a Polish nationalist type who was influenced by a lot of that sort of take. Trilateral Commission, of course, is a big thing. Mika Brzezinski. There you go. Mika Brzezinski, of course, is a very different type of thing. Now, of course, how dedicated to actual Polish nationalism is a whole different thing, but that's a whole, yeah. To be fair, I don't know any Arab person who likes Turkey. Exactly. Exactly. They think, like I say, and we've seen that video, Turkey, you know, Turks are seen as roaches or whatever the case may be. It's, like I say, it's a whole different type of thing. It's very complicated stuff. It's like the meme. We're at the meme point where it's like, I'm not going to talk about politics. 3 drinks later, you know, and it's like Inshallah, I will hit you with my shoe or something like that, right? So we're you can't avoid the politics of it, right? But yeah, American politics are so boring and so astroturf that you talk about it's funner to talk about politics in whatever country and seeing them while out, like Austria right now. Austria going is wiling the fuck out, and you're seeing like I say, for example, Rotterdam. Rotterdam is being attacked right now. Things are getting burned down and shit, and they're just like, well, but that just goes to show how you know Europe is. But that's a whole different story. But yeah, the waterman, well, melon seller, exactly. Yeah, best part of yeah, I won't be reconstructed, and I don't give a damn. Exactly. Yeah, or I caught rheumatism. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Rest in peace to Hoyt Axton, by the way. I'm sure he had some trouble, but I have a certain respect for that. But yeah, I imagine we're coming up to that point. I think that people still want to hold this image of America like we need to come together as a country. No, you don't. You just want people to ignore some real issues, whether they're political, whether they are economical, whichever the case may be. You want to ignore those aspects and come together. And to think that this infrastructure bill is magically going to save America. No, it's the same thing with like Hawaii or whatever the case may be. So it is what it is, right? But yeah, let's bring it back around and we'll try to wrap this stream up. But the holidays bring out emotion. They bring out a history. They remind you of certain things, right? Where the Macy's Day Parade, for example, it's like, oh, and here's the float, this and that, and it's maintained to keep a national sense about you, you know, to say, this is your loyalty, this is what you are, sitting there stuffing your face with turkey and mashed potatoes and stuffing, um, while you're watching the Macy's Day Parade, you know, and that's seen as America, you know. And it's different somewhere else, right? Or the Rose Bowl, for example. That's later in the day usually. That's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, it's different, but yeah. Patton's grandfather fought for the Confederacy. That's true. Yeah, that is true. You know, and the traditions are stem deep. You know, but of course, once again, though, that's for money. Macy's doesn't do that for free, and it's also become a vehicle for whatever bullshit Broadway play comes out. So it's like, we're going to show you now a rendition of a new Broadway play that's going to be playing in, whatever theater. Nobody cares. Outside of New York snobs, nobody gives a shit about your fucking bullshit play. But that's what they do. And I imagine it takes a fair amount of hefty money to get various folks to go to the Macy's Day Parade in New York so that they could have just a brief moment to say, to get that audience to see your bullshit play or your version of Rent or whatever play it is. That's the way it goes. It's just bullshit. But that's America for you. It's about money. This is a country that was built on capitalism. It's built on business, built on brands. And it's unfortunate. Not to say it doesn't exist in other countries. It does, but it's a different sort of thing where it's a very thin veneer in this country. But anywho, how can we help you? Okay. He's not. Oh, there he is.
About
Okay.
15, 20 minutes. You take this over to the neighbor.
Oh.
Just knock on the door.
All right.
And if they're not there, just bring it back. I'll turn
it up. Okay. I don't know if
they're.
they're.
Or do you want me?
I'll let him in. I'll listen for him.
Thank you.
Gotten all the bacon done?
The last one's
in. Okay, that's good. Well, there you go. You heard it here, folks. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up pretty soon. But it's good to reminisce about this stuff and to try to put it into context for the time, right? About holidays, tradition. Tradition should be a living thing. It's something that represents a struggle. It should represent a reason why you are what you are. If you're an American, if you're Palestinian, or if you're whichever, right? That's what a tradition should represent, why you are what you are. That's what Wignats try to do, right? There's a reason, celebrating Deus Vult, stuff like that, right? There you go. All that sort of thing. Of course, that's changed, of course, but yeah, at the end of Thanksgiving Day to usher in the Christmas season, my family watched Christmas Vacation. Yeah, it is. It is. Yep. The part where he plugs in the tree and all that. Oh yeah, I remember aspects of that movie. That's one that I don't remember too much of, but yeah. Or Home Alone, right? Home Alone is another one of those where, you know, keep the change, you filthy animal, all that sort of thing. Yeah. I will celebrate the 7th of January until the day I die. There you go. Let me see here. Let me see here. Let me see here. Ukraine celebrates Christmas on January 7th. I'm being a boomer here and I'm being an American, so let me see. Here in Ukraine, I've received a few questions about why Ukraine doesn't celebrate Christmas on 25th. Religious holidays in Ukraine are determined by the Orthodox Church, follows the Julian calendar. Yeah, this is yeah, introduced by Julius Caesar in 45 BC. Now that we have the dates figured out, I wanted to share with you how we celebrated Christmas here. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So I see. But yeah, absolutely. It's a different sort of thing in different sort of context. But yeah, absolutely. So I had no idea about that. I'm glad I learned about that. So why January 7th for Ukraine is celebrate, why Christians celebrate that way. Yeah. Preservation of the flame, not the ashes. Absolutely. Absolutely. But let's go ahead and just wrap this up. I hope y'all enjoyed that. We did touch into politics because, of course, it's a political channel. But um, I hope that there's a different message. The various messages in there about politics, about religion, about how these things evolve. I think that's all I got to say. I hope y'all enjoyed that. And you can just say, he made some good points. And stick around for another video that I recorded just before this about local hierarchies, which is about 18 minutes long. It went a little bit longer than expected. So, if y'all washing the dishes or if you're vacuuming, maybe you can listen to it and say, that was a pretty video too. So, anywho, hope y'all enjoyed that. See you later. Goodbye.